Welcome to Barcelona. We're here today shooting a virtual tour of the Estella Hotel behind us, which is a nice little boutique hotel off the south coast of Barcelona. I've got the Z1 with me today and we're going to be taking you behind the scenes as we shoot this entire virtual tour.
Shooting a virtual tour is not just taking a picture and hope it's okay. It's taking a lot of things into consideration, and we're going to discuss 10 tips how to make your next virtual tour better and more professional looking.
So the number one must-have accessory when shooting a virtual tour after choosing a 360 camera is a monopod. It does pay to invest in a good one that has a heavy bottom and a thin top. This will last you a long time, so it is worth saving up and getting, because this is going to make shooting your virtual tours so much easier. A tripod isn't a good idea because tripods are so much bigger than monopods, meaning it's going to be a lot more post-production work to remove it, or you just end up with a tripod in your shot, and that's not good. Be especially careful when you're shooting outside because it is windy and your camera will fall over. Even with a good monopod with a lot of weight, you need to be extra careful. So when you're shooting outside, you'll still want to do it as quickly as possible because there is still a chance it could blow over. Set up your camera, hide, take the shot, then run back and grab your camera.
So Ben, this is not how you take a proper picture. You have to put it up and you need to make sure that the camera is straight up, else there will be a lot of post-processing issues where you have horizontal lines doing this wavy stuff and verticals that are not straight. Not all 360 cameras have an auto horizon correction, and even if they do, sometimes it simply doesn't work. So what we try to do is keep the camera straight up, and then you avoid any sort of post-production work. So that way when a viewer looks around, the horizon is straight and it looks more natural.
Make sure the camera is centrally located and at eye level. This is important because you don't want a shot against the wall. You don't want to mistreat the use of 360. When we're shooting 360, the idea is to capture interesting details in all directions. So first off, you need to look around your location with your own eyes and figure out, okay, where are the nice spots? I need to put my camera exactly in the middle. So right here, I have this beautiful water feature. I have this spiral staircase. I have details up there. I have nice artwork on this side. There's artwork everywhere. This is the theme of this hotel. There's artwork everywhere, so I want to position myself right in the middle of the artwork. Keeping the camera at eye level as well is important. You need to think about your viewer's experience. You don't want them to feel like an ant or like a giant. You want them to feel like they're a human walking through the space. So it's important you put it at the same level that they would see with their own eyes if they were here. If you have a space that has a few centers, you might want to try a few of them. This seems pretty centered to me, but also up here. So I'm going to shoot a pano down here, and also one up here, because I'm not 100% sure yet which one is going to look better later on. So I'm going to shoot both so we have both of our bases covered.
Shooting a bathroom is probably one of the more difficult rooms to shoot because there's lots of reflections and things going on that you don't want to have in your frame. So we're going to try to set up the camera in a way that there's the least amount of reflection or shadows going on. And that's what we're trying to do here, because there's a large mirror behind me, and if I put the camera over here, the camera will be seen in the mirror, of course. But if we just put it 20 centimeters further, I found a spot that yeah, there's no reflection at all anymore. So the way that we quickly double check if the camera is not visible in the reflection is just by viewing it yourself. And I can see from this point that everything's okay. And as a final check, you can always check your app and look at the live view to check if everything's okay.
The name of the game is having as little post-production as possible. So if you can fix your reflection issues on set, you don't have to fix it later. So if there's any major reflections, like in a big mirror here, avoid it while you can. This room has a few different places that reflect. So if you have a smaller one like this, so our shower door is reflecting a little bit, that's going to be easier to edit out than a major reflection in the window here. Next, you'll need to think about lighting, and it's a better idea to shoot during the day if you can, because you have lots of natural light in front of you. At nighttime, it's going to be too tricky, the exteriors will be too dark, and it won't look as nice and inviting for your viewers to look at the tour. So the sun is essentially going to act as your key light, shining in through the windows, lighting up your space. However, there are some difficult situations like the one we have here in this room, it's kind of dark at the back of the room and really light at the front. So what might we do to light up the rest of the room?
Well, you just turn on the lights of the room, and it gives you also an extra atmosphere and gives you a better overview of the room as well.
Let me just show you for contrast. That's off, off, off. So look at that. This looks dark and dingy like an old shed, whereas at least we have a little bit of ambient light, especially from a 360's camera perspective. It's going to light up the rest of the room. Obviously you need to get your exposure right as well, but that little bit of ambient light will actually light up the entire corner and this part of the room. So even if it's a small light and that's all you have, it's going to make a difference.
Speaking about strong light sources, it's important to know that a strong sun or backlit window like the ones behind us can have an effect on your image. So sometimes it's better to just rotate the camera that the stitch line is actually in the middle of your strong light source.
Yes, this is because if the lenses are facing this way, then one lens is getting a lot of exposure to the strong light source and one lens is only facing the dark side. So this can create issues here. So depending on the camera you own, it may not stitch it that great and there could be quite a noticeable disparity in the stitch line area around here.
So another area that you need to take care of is your stitching line when you're way too close to an object, actually, in this case a coffee table. Sometimes it's better to just move your camera a few centimeters or 10 centimeters from the object, or you just rotate it 90 degrees so that stitching line is not hitting your object.
The next tip is don't shoot in plain JPEG. JPEG has the least amount of information in it, and when you shoot just with JPEG with no settings adjusted, you're going to get the worst image quality possible, which is something you will definitely need to change, especially when you're dealing with harsh mixed lighting like we have here in this restaurant. We've got really bright windows out there, yet the interior is extremely dark. So this is when we're going to go up a notch, and I'm going to try two different exposure settings. Firstly, I'll try HDR, inbuilt HDR in the Theta Z1. Next, I'm going to try shooting RAW with bracketing, which means you're getting three different exposures, one bright, one normal, and one dark, and combining them together. So these are settings you will want to try, especially when you have a tricky lighting situation such as this one. So Peter, funny thing you hear of all places.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
How many panos should you shoot?
Well, the minimum amount would be just one, of course, that's obvious, but in a hotel room like this bedroom, for example, one is more than okay. You don't need to have 5 images here, or just one image will show you what the room is all about. With a lobby, for example, which is a larger area, well, there it can be nice to jump from one point to the other.
Yeah, and the lobby downstairs at this hotel had really interesting artwork all the way around, so it actually did justify moving around a bit. However, if it was a really plain lobby with plain walls and not too much visual interest, you'd probably do less, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just one image probably tells the entire story, so that's okay then.
Yeah, same with things like the dining room downstairs. It only needed one, because if you move from one point to another, it's just more tables and chairs. So you don't need to overshoot.
And to make a virtual tour even more interesting, it's also important that you can connect the different locations that you shoot, or within one location that you can go from one panel to another one. And it's pretty simple to do that. You just have a visual point of reference when you're placing your camera, and you see that you can see the next place where your next placement will be, and then you will be able to go from one place to the other one.
Yeah, so make sure each panel has a clear view of the space the viewer will be moving into. As we lay here now, I'm looking into the other room and I'm already visualizing what the virtual tour is going to look like. There's going to be a button right there at that door. I'm going to click it and it's going to take me there, so I can see it with my eyes, therefore the 360 camera can also see it.
Another important aspect when shooting virtual tours is having your location free of any people. Photographing members of the public can have consequences from a legal standpoint, and we don't want to have to ask everyone sitting by the pool to sign a model release, because it takes too much time and they might not be okay with it. So it's a waiting game. Sometimes you have to wait for people to leave, or you can ask them nicely if they'll move for 2 minutes. Right now there's one guy in my shot here, so I'm going to ask him politely to move while I'll take the picture. The key thing is to capture your location completely empty without any people in it. Sometimes you will get the location and it will be empty straight away, but sometimes it can also take minutes or even hours before it becomes empty. So the best thing to do is pre-arrange with your client when the least busy time of the day will be, so you can plan your shoot around that.
The final tip is removing the tripod from the nadir. When you're shooting and placing your camera down on the ground or an elevated surface, I'm going to put it on a table in this example, try and find a pure color, like pure white or something else. Try and avoid patterns or anything difficult that's going to be difficult to edit out later. So here we go. I have white. I know already that's going to be super easy to edit out. So here's the shot. I've opened it up in the app TouchRetouch, which is for both iPhone and Android. And we're simply just going to drag our finger over the tripod, go. Voila, it's gone, magic. I think this app is like $2, so I would definitely recommend downloading it.
So Ben, we finished our first virtual tour
Together.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it turned out extremely well. That was a work of absolute perfection. And in fact, it was so perfect, I'm gonna link it down there so you can check it out yourself. I'll link our complete setup down in the description as well. And also, just FYI, I'm working on my next video course, which is all about virtual tours that will teach you everything from beginning to end. I'm in the process of shooting it now and it should be ready by the end of the year, which is why you need to hit that subscribe button so you can be the first to hear about it. You can find Peter on social media here. You can find me on social media here. And with that, we will disappear.